It is finally October, but still feels like it's 90 fucking degrees down here in the southeast, but not gonna let that get me down. On with spooky season. So welcome back to the entertainment room, where today we are following a ghost hunting team that runs into their worst case scenario, actually discovering some paranormal shit. So I am reviewing a found footage horror film, a classic found footage horror by this point. This is one of the biggest standouts in the subgenre, and that is 2011's Grave Encounters. So to start off, can we mention how big of a year 2011 was for found footage? The Tunnel, Megan is Missing, Apartment 143, Apollo 18, Paranormal Activity 3, and many, many more, but those are some of the more popular options. And I know that not all of those were great options, but popular. It was an impressive year overall. Found footage has not been received nearly as well as other subgenres of horror, and I can understand that, but for many others, including myself, it's a lot of fun, and Grave Encounters was iconic for a reason. And it is one of those more intense entries. Several found footage films went for a more subtle approach with its scares and story progression, which was often done to a fault, but not always. And found footage horror has really fallen off in recent years, but I still find it fun to go back and revisit some of the better entries. So, Grave Encounters, let's jump straight into it. Grave Encounters follows a group with a fairly new reality ghost hunting TV show called, well, Grave Encounters. So this is their 6th episode, and it follows their exploration of an abandoned asylum called the Collingwood Psychiatric Hospital, and things go, as you can imagine, horrendously wrong. Lance Preston is the show's host, and he is followed by Sasha, Matt, and TC. Houston Gray also joins them later as this psychic to hopefully help them communicate. Now, I said in a previous review that I don't like movie trailers in most cases, but there was a time where I would set my computer and binge videos on YouTube of horror movie trailer compilations to try and find films that piqued my interest. And while a lot of trailers did show too much or just simply looked really fucking stupid, some did catch my attention. And my second review on this podcast was for 2012's Evidence, which is a found footage horror film, and it was discovered this way along with Grave Encounters, and both had looked like a lot of fun. So this viewing may be my 4th or 5th of this movie, and I have my complaints, but this was a refreshing installment in the subgenre, even if aspects are a little dated now, and it is characteristically a bit of a slow build, a bit cheesy in the beginning, but it's not a very long movie at around an hour and a half, including credits. And what also keeps this film afloat even in its exposition and setup was how the characters viewed and treated the show. We've all likely seen at least an episode or so of these ghost hunting shows, and while we would love to believe that there is more realism and true findings in these supposedly haunted places, most likely, it's kind of a load of shit. And these shows find creative ways to stretch entertainment value as far as possible. This story starts with the same scenario, but we get cuts meant for the show, as well as their behind-the-scenes personalities and thoughts, which includes their venting and frustrations, which was pretty interesting to hear. It becomes clear straight away that they have had no real luck so far catching anything, and watching them each try and perform knowing their frustrations was just so damn entertaining. In my spoilers, I'll get into some specifics with that. And something else, some people may want the scares to begin faster, but I was overall okay with the pacing. The characters and their situation, and intentionally cheesy on-camera personas, kept me entertained, but I will admit I do think a couple scenes could have been either cut or at least shortened. And again, the scares we get are loud, a lot of evil screeching in front of the camera, and the demons, spirits, or whatever, come at them with quite the aggression. And it does a decent job creating the necessary suspense during those scares. And when I said earlier that some aspects are a little dated, I'm mostly referring to the design of the demons chasing them. It's your basic early 2000s, 2010s CGI demon faces, popular on YouTube scary videos, but for me I do still think the timing and the setup makes up for some of these basic effects. The Vicious Brothers were the writers and directors of this film, as well as its sequel. They also did 2014's Extraterrestrial, which I haven't seen in several years, but I remember it being at least okay at the time. The last thing before spoilers is some final notes about the actors. Again, they are entertaining to me with the behind-the-scenes bickering, but of course we get several loud arguments that many may find annoying. I've said this before, but that's not something that really bothers me typically, at least not for a while, but I know other people feel differently. The main cameraman, TC, almost got to the point where he was annoying me a good bit of the time, but overall, he's an okay character, just the most vocal of the group, especially when under extreme stress. Definitely not the type to shut the fuck up when excited and or frightened. The actor definitely could have dialed it back a bit, and a lot of complaints for this film are kind of aimed at him, it seems, but some people are realistically that dramatic, so it didn't feel too exaggerated, at least as far as I see it. But overall, despite its typical found footage flaws, Grave Encounters is a fun time with definite rewatchability. It's not my favorite in the subgenre, but I have heard others place it there. So, anyway, on to spoilers. So Lance Preston is the show's host. Once again, he had inspiration from this show from a past encounter he had when he was younger, and it's crazy how quickly that confidence can dwindle. It was interesting seeing his charming reality TV personality contrasted with his true aggravated one. Full confidence to, why the fuck do I even bother, immediately after. And nothing happens for a while. Lance even coughs up $20 to get a groundskeeper to lie about seeing a ghost, which he had already said he hadn't. And his lie is so goddamn unconvincing, you could read the defeated look on Lance's face as he tries to stay in character. And they are getting an interesting history from some sources. There's that, but that's about it. Might as well just stay home and Google it, right? I also like the psychic, Houston. He's a fantastic TV personality as this medium. He had his dramatic, corny entrance onto the episode with his performance and smolder, just to burst out into laughter when they yell cut. Cause he's a fraud. Equipped with some hilarious facial expressions after the first couple scares later on. This actor understood his assignment, and I enjoyed every bit of his screen time. Asylums in general have been utilized in horror a lot, but they are such a phenomenal location, so many ways to play with the characters' minds, and there are so many twists and turns that this film handles pretty well. Like when they lose their tech guy Matt, and they find him later, except he is now in a gown and completely out of his fucking mind, acting similar to how many patients in the past likely acted. It also added another layer, as it was uncertain until his death if he was a threat to them or not. And again, the design of the apparitions are dated for sure, CGI demonic faces. I did not mind it too much, though, as the jump scares are rather good most of the time. Some you could see coming, but a few others were well timed and directed. Plus the intensity at which they charge at our desperate, previously ghost-obsessed group. My favorite scare hands down was when Lance went to look for something and he was struggling to switch the camera to night vision. He fiddles with the camera, figures it out, but as soon as he switches, boom! Demon attack, nasty ass breath, all up in the camera, knocking him to the floor. And even though I have seen this film a few times now, that scare gets me every single time. And if nothing else, you have to admit that that moment holds up very well. I still nearly fell out of my chair this time around. And this film doesn't feel like it completely relies on jump scares. It absolutely has them, of course, yes. But also does a fine job throwing in different, surprising story elements and builds suspense better than I would have expected. I know a lot of these tropes have been utilized now a lot over the years with the psychiatric plot twist, but what they did felt relatively new to me, at least at the time with my first viewing. I also talked about some of the humor, especially in the beginning. After shit starts going down, there are still some comedic moments between members of the crew for a while, and with that, you really need to be careful, for sure, because you don't want your tones to conflict too much. Otherwise, it'll be hard to take the main horror elements seriously, but I feel Grave Encounters rides that line really well, and I don't personally feel like anything came across too goofy to where it took me out of the intense moments. Another plus is that asylum films are also psychological, once again, how easily the setting and the mental state of our characters can change. One of the most memorable, stomach-flipping moments is when they try to push open the front door to escape in the middle of the night. They get it open, only for it to reveal more of the asylum, more hallway, not the outside world. Time also works differently. Their food that was only a day old has been spoiled, like it's been sitting there for a week. A con I still have to point out is the obvious, poor character decision-making at times. And I know, it's a horror film, and I did overlook some things that can be chalked up to, distractions from extreme stress and anxiety, but too many can take me out of the movie, at least partly, and here, you still have too many moments where characters go off alone, split up when they clearly shouldn't, and sometimes it's by accident, and that is fine, but otherwise, the other moments felt random and just really lazy. And I love how Lance and Sasha leave their confused, psychotic friend Matt alone by an open elevator shaft, leading him to falling to his death. And now you could put most of the blame on Lance, who should not have tried to step away on his own prior to this, as Sasha only stepped in to help him when he was attacked. But they should have known not to split up with his baggage anyway. To get back to another pro, this is such a simple thing, but it was a bit repetitive. But I was always eager to see what realization was made after they locked themselves in a room, after they run away from a demon or something, and rest up for a while, because they would always wake up to some fuck shit. The main one I remember is them waking up to patient hospital bands on their wrist. That was only one of them, but I really appreciate these moments when they wake up. And then the finale was nice, with Lance stumbling upon a whole-ass surgical team, a paranormal one of course, as they jump scare him and he fails to evade them. All of this on top of him already being at the point where he is losing his fucking mind. I did realize recently that this shot is very similar to a scare I think that was in House on Haunted Hill, so that's kind of a bummer, but what are you gonna do? A decent homage, I guess. This ending sets up a sequel pretty well. Too bad I don't remember a whole lot of positives of the sequel. Maybe I'll give it another shot one day, but I just don't remember caring for it much at all. But it's been years. So for today, I'm going to give Grave Encounters a 6.9 out of 10. The storyline is nothing new, even for the time, and the pacing and the effects has some iffy moments, but I love the premise, the humor, and a lot of the scares. It did take a very basic plot and added some nice touches to it. I can see why it is one of the more popular found footage films. A highly rewatchable entry, especially around this time of year. So what do you think? Let me know what you like for me to review next. Follow me on my social media, listen on YouTube or Spotify. I am also on TikTok as well now. But that is all for today. I will see you next time on The Entertainment Room.